Hello, class. This is another one of the pieces that you'll be looking and listening to before you get to London. This segment is all about your international marketing planning. And this will talk about international marketing planning in general and then wrap up with specifics on your project. First, I want to point out that typically corporations will have international strategic plans. What they're doing is creating links between company resources and the international goals and objectives that they have. Planning takes place at the corporate, division, business unit, and product level. At the corporate level, typically what's happening is the strategic plan is allocating resources and establishing objectives for the whole enterprise worldwide. It has a long-term focus, so a corporate plan might be a 5 to 7 to 10-year plan, depending on what kind of corporation it is and what industry it's in. It involves the very highest levels of management, and it also involves international target market selection. Strategic planning at the division level allocates resources to each business unit based on division goals and objectives. Typically, portfolio analysis is used to decide which brands to harvest, invest in, or divest. Again, division planning has a longer term focus than a typical marketing planning outcome would be. So the division plan might be 3 to 5 to 7 years. Business unit planning involves decisions about which consumer segments to target in each country and how to target them. And a business unit plan might be 3 to 5 years. And finally, product level planning. When we talk about strategic planning at the product level, we're talking about developing a marketing plan. It's developed at the product level, product line level, or at the brand level. Typically, a marketing plan has a shorter term focus. It might be 1 to 3 years, again, depending on the industry and type of product. It usually involves the entire marketing department, or maybe not the entire marketing department, but the people who are responsible for a given brand or product line. This graphic shows you what the marketing plan process looks like and the direction that it takes. We start at the very top with situation analysis. So we're looking at the company itself and its competencies, consumers and what they're looking for, competitors, and channel partners. And here you'll see marketing strategy as an outcome of looking at these 4 C's. Company cost and goals, competitor strategies, consumer needs and preferences, and channel partner costs and goals. The next step is segmentation and targeting, positioning, and developing branding objectives. That would be followed by our tactics. Tactics are the choices we make in our 4 P's in order to execute the strategy that we've developed in the previous steps. Recall our 4 P's would be product choices, pricing choices, distribution choices, and promotion choices. So we see that the strategy is the output that guides our choices for product, pricing, promotion, and distribution. Finally, we have implementation and control. Implementation and control is really about how will we put this plan in place. So altogether, you see this is the marketing planning process. We start at the top by understanding the situation, make choices about segmentation, targeting, and positioning, and our branding objectives. Decide how we're going to get to the place we want to be in terms of positioning by the choices and selections we make in terms of how we design and develop our products, the way we price them, the distribution partners that we choose or how we choose to distribute our product, and how we choose to promote our product. And then finally, we have an operational plan for how we put this plan into place and how we measure our success or failure for the plan. A little more on segmentation, targeting, and positioning. The formal definition is the process of identifying and focusing on those international market segments that the company can serve most effectively and designing products, services, and marketing programs with these segments in mind. Now, those of you who are marketing majors, this sounds very much like your standard definition of segmentation, targeting, and positioning, except it's being applied in an international context. And that international context adds a layer of complexity. STP, shorthand for segmentation, targeting, and positioning, is used by companies to identify consumer segments with similar traits, select segments that the company can serve efficiently and effectively, and develop products tailored to each segment. Market segmentation is the idea of taking a whole market and identifying within that market groups of customers who have similar needs and wants and groupings that are different from each other. So within a group, customers have similar wants and needs, and outside of that group, other groups are different. A target market is the segment that we have chosen to focus on or market to based on their fit with our core competencies and our ability to meet their needs. Segmentation itself is the process of dividing the market up into those different segments and identifying one or more target markets. So typically when we segment a market, we'll find multiple segments. The question is, which of these segments do we want to focus on? And how many segments do we want to focus on? In international segmentation, the idea, the core concept is very similar. However, we have, again, that layer of complexity that means we have to look at things by country. So we're in the process of identifying countries and or consumers that are similar with regards to key traits such as product-related needs and wants, and that would respond to a product and the way we've decided to put that product into the marketplace in a similar way. Segmentation has to be performed at both the country and the consumer or customer level. I should mention at this point that I will use the terms consumer and customer interchangeably. Typically in marketing, we use consumer for consumers, people like you and I who consume things, and we use customer for businesses. That would be a customer might be something like Kent State University, or it might be a company like Goodyear, or it might be an organization like a government entity, a county or a city. Okay, international and macro segmentation. The idea here, that macro segmentation piece, the idea is to identify countries that have similar wants and needs. And we can segment countries based on their market potential, political, legal, cultural, and financial environment of the country, and the marketing support infrastructure. So for example, this just shows you per capita income, first per capita income, and then income adjusted for purchasing power. These figures are a little bit old, they're from 2004, but they'll give you an idea. They show you what the relative similarity and dissimilarity is among these 10 countries in terms of purchasing power. And frankly, from a marketing perspective, what we're most often interested in would be purchasing power, not per capita income. International microsegmentation is different. In this case, we're trying to identify consumers that have similar wants and needs. It's very much like the segmentation we do in our domestic markets, except now we're looking into international markets. We segment consumers based on the things we usually segment them on: usage patterns, benefits desired, and purchase behaviors. Often, we describe consumers based on other variables: demographic, geographic, psychographic, and again, behaviors, specific behaviors, not purchase behaviors, but other behaviors. And then we evaluate our potential target markets. So when we look at a market and we've segmented it and we identify these different segments, we want to choose the ones that are going to be the most profitable for us. And what we do is we're looking at the segments that we might pursue, and we're really evaluating them based on the size of the segment expected growth rate of the segment, competition within the segment, cost of reaching the segment, and then company objectives and resources. When we're making target market decisions, we're looking at ways in which we should or could differentiate our product in order to meet the needs of different segments. For example, Procter & Gamble has multiple brands, Dreft, Tide, and Ariel. They're targeted to different segments who want very different types of performance for their laundry detergents. I don't think Ariel is available in this country, but you will see it on the shelves in Ireland and I believe in the UK. I strongly encourage all of you to spend some time in grocery stores, not just as you're working on this on the project, the marketing planning project, but in general to understand differences. When we talk about target market decisions, one of the things we can choose to do is have a concentrated strategy. In that case, we only select one market segment and we target it with a single brand as opposed to having multiple brands for multiple segments. An example of this would be Montblanc pens. Those are really targeting consumers who want a high performance status brand, and that's a single segment that they serve. Niching or niching, both terms are acceptable, is targeting a small market and is one particular example of a concentrated marketing strategy, targeting strategy. An undifferentiated strategy is probably not really a strategy at all. In this case, the product is aimed at the market using a single strategy regardless of countries targeted, regardless of anything. And in that case, what we're usually talking about are things like commodities, beans, powdered milk. It really is not a targeted strategy at all. Once we've identified segments and chosen which segments we want to target, then the question becomes, how can we position our brand so that it's going to be most attractive to that segment? So when we talk about positioning, we're talking about identifying competitors first, figuring out how competitors' products are being perceived by consumers, analyzing the company's strengths, analyzing what customers or consumers want, and then deciding how we want to position our brand relative to competing brands. And that's a really important point. I just want to remind all of you that when we talk about brand position, it's a relative concept. My brand's position is relative to other brands on the marketplace. Once we've selected the position we want to achieve for our brand, then we have to implement our strategy and monitor that position. So positioning is designing the company's offering and image to occupy a distinctive place in the minds of the target market, and that's relative to competing products. Your position is the way that consumers see your company as unique from other companies, especially your competition. Brand image is how your brand is actually perceived by consumers. You cannot directly control this. You indirectly control it by the steps you take to position your product. Brand position is how you want your brand to be perceived by consumers, and positioning is the process of communicating your brand position to consumers in an effort to make their brand image match your brand position. So, for example, it's not unusual for a company to find out that the image they have in the marketplace is not the image that they want or expect. And when that happens, the brand takes steps to change that image. They're engaging in positioning. Okay, just the idea here. We've got the consumer has a brand image, and we have a brand position. We want those things to match, and we're going to work to make them match. Here, when we talk about it, we talk about competitor analysis. So we look at product features, brand image, marketing campaigns, company analysis, our company, our product features, strengths, our core competencies, and then we look at the customer's wants and needs, their preferences, and that's specific to our target market. In the situation analysis, which we've already talked a little bit about, again, we tend to look at the 4 C's. And specifically, we're looking at consumers' needs, wants and needs, what they want, And then what is it that our company does well? Something that we can do well and that we can do better than other companies. So we're looking for a gap in the competition and a gap that no other competitor is filling or isn't filling well. Segmentation, targeting, and positioning really focuses on trying to find that point of differentiation. So the target market is who we want to buy our product. And the point of differentiation is what we will communicate with the target market so they understand how our brand is positioned. The brand position is what makes us unique from our competition and what makes our target market choose our product instead of someone else's. Positioning. When we're positioning in an international context, we have to be careful about assumptions that we might be trapped into making. Do not assume that the brand image that you want to create internationally is the same as the brand image that you want to create domestically. That's not necessarily true. Do not assume that your competitors' brand images are the same internationally as they are domestically. And do not assume that consumers will respond to your brand position the same way internationally as they do domestically. So we've developed a strategy based on our understanding of the situation and our analysis of the segments, the targeting, and then decisions about positioning. The output of that strategy is how we're going to operationalize it, our choice of the 4 Ps, our product, our price, our promotion, and our distribution. And finally, implementation and control is how your plan will be put into place. What kind of timelines and budgets will you have, and how will you know it's working? What are the measurable outcomes that you're anticipating? So this has been a general overview and for most of you a refresher on marketing planning, and specifically marketing planning in an international context, although as I hope you're learning, it's not really that different from marketing planning in general. The context is different, the things we have to look at are different, but the process is very much the same. Now I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about your marketing plan project. First, the International Marketing Plan Project is a team project. You will be working with your roommate unless you don't have one. If you don't have one, we will find a team for you to work with. The key requirements start with you choosing one of 2 approaches to the project. Either you're going to choose a US brand that is not available currently in the UK or Ireland, or you're going to choose an Irish or a UK brand that's not available in the US. I recommend that you don't wait a full week to decide what product you'd like to work on and that you decide on something from the UK to bring into the US if you want to work in that direction. Next, you'd be developing a marketing plan for the product and brand you select. Please note, the marketing plan is done at the brand level, but you must also specify the product. So for example, you can't just say, Apple. You're going to have to say Apple iPhone. You need to be specific about both brand and product. The key requirements are exactly the same as what we just discussed. So it's the situation analysis, your 4 Cs analysis, it's your strategy choices, segmentation, targeting, positioning, and branding objectives. It's your tactics, and it's your implementation and control. I understand you have a very limited time to do the projects in, and therefore I don't expect a lot of depth, but what I do expect is a clear indication that you've spent time doing some basic research, thinking about the project, and building your rational arguments in support of the decisions and choices you're making. Please see the International Marketing Plan Project assignment and rubric document that's available to you on Blackboard for details. Also, make sure you review the 2 previous plans that are posted on Blackboard. Those 2 plans are called Airwaves No Name PowerPoint and Mike's Hard Lemonade No Name PowerPoint.